Hey, Sens fans, welcome to today's episode of the Senstennial Podcast. And today we're excited to welcome a new guest to the show, and that would be the one and only Alex Adams. If you don't know Alex, he's the host of the Behind the Play podcast, and he's also an Ottawa Senators writer for the Hockey News. So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. A big fan of your show. You guys have some great guests. I've really liked you guys kind of incorporating some listeners into the show as well. So I'm really honored to be on, and thanks so much for having me. I mean, we've been talking for a while. I've known you, Matt, for a while. So thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk some Sens. It's not as gloomy as it could be. So that let's start there.
That's true. But we actually want to start back a long time ago when you first decided to start this adventure as an up
Hmm.
and comer, deciding to try and get your name out there as not just a writer, but to be involved in scrums for the Ottawa Senators and interview players. So can you maybe talk to how you started down that path and your journey?
Yeah, I'll give a very quick spark notes, but basically I started the podcast as you guys know, and I didn't plan to be a reporter. And about this time, give or take last summer, a friend of mine, I love the Canadian basketball team. I cover them for Raptors Republic. They offered me to they said, you should apply as media and go to Jakarta, and I love the team, and basically long story short, I went as a media. Somehow they gave me credentials. And then I came back and I kind of had the itch, and I kind of reached out to a bunch of different places. The Hockey News was kind enough to add me along. And then November 2nd, first game ever as a credentialed media member, they played the LA Kings. They went down 3-0, stormed back, and still lost. The Senators did. So I'll always remember that game. I think PLD scored, which as a my family's from Winnipeg, so that hurt. But
Stung
um,
just a little more, eh?
just a little more. If PLD beats you, that's tough. That's rough. That's one of his eight
Yeah.
goals last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And then, once you get credentials, you're getting to know players, and it took a while, but by the end of the season, I've interviewed a bunch of players, and there's people that are, I'd say, more open to talk to media than others. So you kind of get to know some of the players. But yeah, it was really cool. Like you guys love the Sens, of course, with the name of this podcast and what you guys do, and just to be around NHLers and coaches, and meeting people and saying hi to Steve Stais or Jacques Martin, or Drake Batherson or Tim Stützle, whoever, Jake Sanderson. It's pretty cool to kind of know them a little bit, but I don't profess to know them that well. But just to kind of have some sort of relationship's cool, and I think it makes for better stories. So hopefully next year when I cover this team, I'll have even better stories for people and insight, and hopefully the team wins, because it's way more fun when the team you cover is winning and not when they've missed the playoffs for 7 straight years or whatever it is. So that's kind of my story. And I'm really excited to talk some more Sens, and I think it'll be an interesting season coming up. I think I don't know what you guys think exactly, but they're going to be in that playoff hunt, I think. And so we'll see kind of where it all ends up, but it'll be a fun year.
Yeah, it's interesting. You open the door to the obvious question there, talking about the guys that you've seen around the rink, and the people that you've been able to meet so far. When you're in a scrum, who's your favorite person to talk to when you're in there? Who gives the best answers and the most interesting answers? And we won't ask you to name the opposite, which is who's the
Yeah.
least interesting senator, because you just got your credentials. We don't want you to have to lose them already.
No, I would say some of the better guys. I would say Drake Batherson's very good with his time. Shane Pinto is really funny. He's like super lively, super fun. But the guy that was probably the nicest to me and is no longer there is Parker Kelly. He always gave time to me. He was the first player I talked to, and he was always, shooting the shit, as they said, with us about like loving to go to Hawaii, and but never wanting to go to like the Dominican, and just like stuff like that, where you just kind of get to know their players, and he has a wife and stuff like that. And so that was one. Jake Sanderson was pretty cool. He was one of the first players I talked to, and he was talking to me how he loves to play tennis and got into the Netflix series last year. So just like stuff like that, where you get to know players a bit deeper on a personal level. And I wrote a story about the Bathersons and the Gregs. So it was kind of cool talking to Ridley, talking to Drake, and then talking to their sisters. And it was funny in Minnesota. I bumped into Drake Batherson like 4 times at the hotel, and his mom came up to me and was like, "Hey, like I wanted to introduce myself." So that was kind of cool. And Batherson's like showing me like pictures of his house and just stuff like that, where it's like you kind of get to know the people, and at the end of the day, they're just guys and they play hockey and they're really good. And I think after a while you kind of get used to it, but I won't say like the first couple months, 10-year-old me was probably jumping up and down with excitement and awe, just being around and NHLers and being in a NHL dressing room.
I can imagine. And listen, I mean, you mentioned Parker Kelly. I think we have to circle back there. Did he provide a rationale for Hawaii over the Dominican Republic? Because that seems like a hot, the Dominican over, which one did he say was better?
He loves Hawaii. He loves Hawaii.
Okay. That's a far more sensible take.
I
was getting ready to flame this dude, but okay, he walked it back. He walked it back.
He loves Hawaii because of the wave. Like he just loves to surf, and I don't know Hawaii. I've never been, of course, but he just loves to go with his I think they're engaged. I don't know if they're married, but his partner, and just surf and just chill in the ocean. And
Nice.
I don't remember the details as vividly, but I do remember that he's a huge Hawaii guy, and I was telling him he needs to go to New Zealand if he liked Hawaii, because I used to live there. So that was the kind of conversation that we had about Hawaii, New Zealand, the beach, and waves. That was basically it.
That's super fun.
Have you done a petition to expand the NHL to New Zealand yet?
I heard their women's team is doing much better, so I'm happy for them. I think they went to the 3rd division, but it would be great. They have no ice there. When I lived there, I loved hockey. I was like 14. Could not play to save my life. So I wish they were a bigger hockey culture, but it does get cold in the South Island. It gets cold. It snows. But if you love Lord of the Rings, go to New Zealand, because every freaking shot from that film is all over the country. So if you're a big Lord of the Rings geek, you need to go to New Zealand. But yeah.
That's actually where I'm going for my honeymoon specifically.
No way. Okay, well, so you need to connect with me, because I have all the tips. I have all the tips.
Right. Sounds great. That's really awesome.
Matt didn't tell you that I'm actually the one he's going on honeymoon with. We're gonna go see the Lord of the Rings stuff together.
Yeah. Like if you were in my basement right now, you would see a ton of Lord of the Rings paraphernalia. I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo.
Oh my God, you need to go to Hobbiton. You need to go to Hobbiton.
That's the plan.
Wellington, maybe. That's where I live.
I
I
have a crazy amount of ideas. So
it's funny, Alex. I've met you in person. You are far from a hobbit in stature.
No,
so
I'm a tall guy. Yeah. No, I've got, when I covered basketball, people would see me interview them, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you tall?" I'm like, "Yeah." But in hockey, it's a bit. I don't know. Most of the guys when they're on skates, they're like my height for the most part, unless it's like Jake Sanderson or Brady Tkachuk. So
yeah,
hockey players are pretty tall. There wasn't really, even Brandstrom didn't look that short. So, but I don't know.
I've been saying
I've met him. He was taller than me. So we'll leave it
there
at that.
There you go. Yeah, the Swedish king.
Yeah, Alex, once again, appreciate having you on. What are your thoughts on the new regime so far? Obviously, there have been a lot of moves since, I would say, the first one at the start of the summer with Allmark coming on, but I'd really love to get your opinion on it.
Yeah, there's so many different parts, and we were talking about it off air too, that they did, and Steve Stais kind of mixed and matched this roster that looks quite different than last season. I would say I'd give them maybe a B plus if we're going to do a letter grade. I think the Allmark trade was such a coup just to finally get that goaltender, and obviously they gave up a first round pick, but they already had one, obviously at 7th overall, and just to get a guy who won the Vezina a couple years ago, played really well last year. It just makes a lot of sense. And oh my God, he is such a lovable character. Like, I am so excited. You're talking about like getting to know guys. I think the first day I get into the dressing room, I'm gonna eye him and David on, and I'm gonna say, hey, and let's kind of shoot the shit. But I think that was a great move. Now you talk about the Chikrin trade. I'm sure most people probably didn't feel great when they saw the return. I think Jensen is a serviceable player, but is he? I think he's closer to your bottom pair than he is your, top four defenseman. But he is a right shot. He's a big body. Has the experience of winning the cup. So I didn't love the move. I feel as though they probably could have got more if they traded Chikrin at the deadline, but they did get a right shot defenseman. I really like the Amadio move. I don't know what you guys think, but he played really well in Vegas. He's a really serviceable player, can kind of go up and down the lineup. And his cap hits in like I think it's 2.6 million. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's not gonna anchor anything. And David Perron, I think, brings some leadership that if you guys listen to this team throughout the year, they kept talking about how we need to bring leadership, especially Martin and Steve Staios. And I think that's what they got with David Perron, who's won a cup, been to the playoffs a bunch of times, and he can still get you, close to 50 points, 15 to 20 goals. He's still a good player. 4 million for 2 years isn't going to kill you. I think Pinto, what I've heard is that I don't think it was as acrimonious a negotiation as people kind of maybe in the media made it out to be with a trade request. I don't think Pinto comes into this season with really too much hard feelings with the Senators, so I'm not too worried. 3.75, I like the deal. They bet he gets a bit of security. The Sens kind of get a look at him, and I don't love the Joseph move, but I see it as a way to get Joseph done. So I think I've gone through all the different moves and that Steve Staios has done. I guess Gregor as well as a fourth liner, but overall, I think it's a pretty good offseason, but I really think Staios and company is really undoing what Pierre Dorion left in the mess that he gave Steve Staios when he took charge last season.
Yeah, and I think with the two more recent minor league moves, trading out Yarventi and now Mandalize, like it seems like he wants to push out guys maybe that were more Ottawa style players. I know with Mandalize, it's more so that they just have too many goalies in the system,
Yeah.
so that's a bit different. But with Yarventi, that's just kind of moving a guy out who I think has been um I don't want to say like a lightning rod for debate, but I think there were some mixed feelings on him because he was performing well in the AHL. He was getting better each consecutive year, but I don't really know if he had much of a future with the Sens. And there was always that black cloud of like everyone was hoping Ottawa would take Peterka at that slot because he had been line mates at the World Juniors with Stutzla, and it just seemed like a good fit. And then they took Yarventi, so I think he has a bit of that
The taint.
Yeah, like
the Dorian taint.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd use that phrase, but just he's had like that dark cloud hanging over him, I think. So I think for him it'll be a fresh start. He comes across as kind of a funny character with some of the little tidbit sound bites he's given in the past about if he wasn't in the NHL or wasn't playing hockey, he'd be selling feet pics online. So that was certainly quite a statement, but and in return, Ottawa gets, Borgo, who's had kind of a down post draft few years, I suppose. Like he hasn't really emerged. He's kind of struggled in the AHL. He has that first round pedigree. Remains to be seen what comes of him. And Chiasson or Chasson. Yeah, we've had one of those guys in the system before. But
back.
yeah, so I mean, I've kind of rambled on here, but really, like, what have you thought? Like, is it noticeable in your eyes that Staios is really trying to bring in guys that, in the case of the trade with Edmonton, two guys that he would have known by being the AGM when he was there last year?
Yeah, you talk about Dorian Taint. I think it's not necessarily Taint, but it's in the NHL, you look at like the Leafs changing from Tree Living to Dubas. Like you can see how Tree Living put his stamp on the team, getting guys that he likes, right? And there's like Kyle Dubas guys and there's Brad Tree Living guys. And I think that's the same here where there's Pierre Dorian guys. And now we're seeing Staios really put an imprint onto this team. I asked him because if you look at his draft, all his players that he drafted were 6'4" and above, essentially. And he said, size isn't a factor, but if you look at a lot of the moves he's made, you can kind of tell that size, grittiness is kind of a part of what he wants from his players. And to be honest, that's probably what this team needs, right? It's been a bit too laissez-faire in their own end. They're a very young team. You see them wilt all the time, and they probably need kind of some more grinders and bigger guys. But I think overall you can see that imprint is that he likes big, physical, versatile players that have also played in the league for a while. And I think this team, in a lot of ways, it might not be better on talent than it was last year, but probably in just the ability to win NHL games, they should be. And, if Allmark plays even to NHL average this year, they're gonna be a good team. Like I think people forget how bad their goaltending was last year, and they didn't play well
I don't
defensively.
forget. Don't worry.
I don't think Matt forgets either.
Hey, Alex.
Club.
Alex, do you want a Corpus Salad jersey? I have a very good price on it.
Lightly used.
Is it 70? Is it $70?
You know what? Sure. No, I'll probably just get it restitched.
Exactly. No, but I think overall he did a good job, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know what you guys think about Travis Green, but I think that hire and how Travis Green does will also be very emblematic. I think he's the type of coach that is needed with this team. He seems to be very communicative and understanding, but also pretty tough. And the expectations are you come into camp in shape, and he's going to work the guys. And I think with DJ Smith, as you guys know, there was a lot of excuses, right? It was the puck bounce, puck didn't go our way. We could have done this. We could have, and it's not like that's unacceptable. All right. And I think that is a change that Jacques Martin brought into the team. And I hope to see next year with this team under